Hello everyone. This is a video that is to address a question that I got quite commonly during these days, which is what is safe for us to do? And it came from different type of people. Some of them had acute problems in terms of new problems or a long-term condition, but it has now flared up for them. For example, knee osteoarthritis was one of them. Another one was pressure on a nerve in the spine, but that was an on and off problem. And I can think of other examples, but not to tire you. So, new problems, for instance, somebody who has fractured their foot, but also, you know, I have, some people had different types of sprains. New problem, old problem that has flared up, or just an old problem that is ongoing and is still causing symptoms, but perhaps people were starting to struggle again with it, and therefore their GP or they were referred to start treatment, or in some cases people were undergoing treatment but that was interrupted and they're waiting for when that is to resume. And some people feel quite confident, they know what they're doing, they're happy to carry on with that. But for a lot of people, it's, you might need a bit of reassurance. And, there are such good materials, and I had so many good suggestions, even, before we had to start our service from our patients. That they will, they have found that is it the life coach? There's so many good people that give really good exercises on YouTube, and there are different programs, short length, long length, more mindful yoga or Pilates type of approach, Tai Chi, more rigorous type of exercising. People like Tracy Andrews that have quite, to become really fit type of exercise for all levels, for all tastes, and I think you can find really, really good things. So this video is not to give exercise or to say this is the good or the bad exercise, but even for people who tried those and then they struggled, so they were unsure, what should I be doing? This is advice basically on how to approach movement if two things. A, you're ambivalent about it, and ambivalent in a way that if your pain or any other symptom flares up, it will put you off doing it. Or if you're genuinely unsure, you didn't get the advice, you don't know what is safe for you, what is unsafe, how to approach things. So first, disclaimers. As always, I need to repeat, this is not medical advice and this is not clinical advice even. I'm not your physiotherapist, I don't know your background, I haven't examined you, so it will be irresponsible for me to give you advice at that level. If in doubt, and especially if you haven't had a diagnosis, please be in contact with your GP. So it is the generic advice on what should be safe. For what I'm going to say to be safe for you, you need two things. The one thing is that if you have a problem, either you're certain yourself it's not a serious problem, you had it for a long time, or you can see yourself that it's nothing, it's not serious. But if it is significant, you need to have been in contact with your GP to make certain that it is not something like a fracture, for example. You need to go and have that investigated. The other scenario that my advice will not be good for you is if you have had a fracture or something like that, not like 10 years ago, like a recent one that you're still in cast, you're still undergoing treatment, and your GP or your physiotherapist or the people in any whomever had advised you that for 6 weeks you shouldn't be moving it, and those 6 weeks have not passed, or they have told you for 6 weeks you cannot be moving it, you can start moving it by 12 weeks. At that time, we will tell you what to do. You need to wait for that, basically. For everything else, we will be in a safe zone. It's simple advice. It shouldn't take long. This will be for once a short video. So there are different ways to kind of categorize physical movement. And when we say exercise, we mean physical movement. It doesn't have to be exercising in a traditional sense. If you're doing your housework, that is still exercising. If you go for a walk, that is still exercising. So exercising doesn't need to be a rigorous, and cemented thing that this is and how it should look. And if it's not exactly like that, you're not doing anything. Also, there is always a starting point. Um, Many times we fail because we put it to ourselves that I need to exercise for half an hour. That is what exercising is, and we don't even move for 30 seconds as a result. So don't put these limitations on yourself. So there are many different ways by which we can categorize movement. There are things like open and closed kinetic chain, or isometric or isotonic exercise, or aerobic or anaerobic, and I can carry on. Those things can be relevant, especially in a new injury, and you might have had advice from your physiotherapist to say to you, for instance, for a lower limb injury, that we will start with closed kinetic chain exercises and we will finish with open kinetic chain, or the other way around. So same for your arm, depending on what the injury was. And those are things that are very helpful. But while you're waiting, and perhaps you cannot have that approach and you want to be doing something, and in all honesty, we should be keeping ourselves going, especially because nowadays we might be getting less movement, so it's even more significant that we engage with the movement that we can. For this video, we will categorize exercise in 3 elements. The first element is aerobic, but not in the sense of aerobic against anaerobic, but aerobic in the sense of getting your juices going, basically getting the blood flow going, becoming a little bit breathless if you can, getting that blood circulated. And then we have strengthening exercise. And strengthening exercise is usually whatever involves a bit of resistance, whether it is your own body weight resistance, whether it is using a weight or an exercise band, something like that. And that helps with the strengthening of the muscles, bones, and the joints. And also relaxation and stretching. Relaxation and stretching come hand in hand. Stretching is not violently elongating muscles. That's not something you can achieve. If you try to do that, you're more likely to seriously injure yourself. Stretching happens in more movement by basically relaxing in the position, and our muscles gradually let go, and therefore we have more movement. So with stretching, a very important thing always to remember is time. Time is your friend. Like the song, I have all the time in the world. Do stretches. I would say in general, exercise never in a rushed way, even if it is fast pace of exercise. Never rush. Think that you have infinite time. So if your body is very, very reactive right now, because you're perhaps because your pain flared up, because it's a new thing, because perhaps there's inflammation, for instance, a big knee from osteoarthritis. So your body is quite reactive and agitated right now. What you might struggle is if you try to put all these elements together in one exercise. So obviously there's always the technique. If any type of movement really flares up your symptoms, there is the attitude of perhaps you can always invest in putting less effort or less time and doing more in the day, more repetition. So little but frequently. The same is true not only if your body is flared up, if you are flared up as a person, like if you are very anxious about it. And I think people right now have good reasons to be anxious because they think, what if I flare myself up? And then there's no one to see. Those are not, irrational things. That's very, very understandable. So you need to build your confidence. Things need to happen in a way that you feel confident in doing. So what I would suggest in this occasion is, as I said, one thing you can always do is do less, put less effort, repeat more times. But the other thing you can very simply do is separate the things. So think, I will do something to get my breath becoming faster and my heart rate faster. It doesn't have to be that you're breathless or running a marathon or a sprint. So you can go for a walk, you can dance to music at your house and start at the pace that you feel comfortable. It might be a very slow walk, it might be very slow music, just even gently moving like that. It can be that you decide to do a YouTube video that you like. Take your breaks, slow it down. Then we have the type of exercises that are for strengthening. For that, you can use your own body weight as they do frequently in Pilates or yoga, or you can use things like therabands or weights. And that therabands and weights will allow you even very small movement where it feels comfortable to you, but that's still strengthening, so that can be your starting point. And the third is relaxation, and those can be achieved by things like exercises that are relaxing, like Tai Chi, or just doing some mild stretches. And as we said, take all your time with stretches. And as you build those things separately, when you feel confident, you can start taking them together. One easy way to bring them together is to go for a walk with your weights and do your stretches after. Or you can put on YouTube an exercise program, but it is a full class, from warm up, then all the exercises, and then at the end you do the stretches. Whereas if you start with something like that, you might find it difficult to cope. And of course, what is always helpful is using your breath. And it's not a coincidence that they use it so much in so many different types of, of movement theories, whether exercising or, something like yoga is movement meditation, basically. And you can two simple ways. I mean, there are many and complicated ways to think about your breath, but if you struggle to use your breath when you exercise, one simple way is move or do the thing against the resistance when your breath comes in, as if your breath gives you energy, and do it for as long as you're breathing in. And when you feel ready to breathe out, so the energy of the breath is leaving your body, relax. Some people might advise the reverse, and you might think, so what is it? Do I do things with the breath or when I breathe out? With inhalation or exhalation? There's no wrong or right, really. There are different schools of thought, so there might be people that argue there is a wrong and right. My opinion is that neither has very strong evidence. But if you are convinced by the opposite, that I need to do things while I exhale, and when I inhale, that's my time to relax, absolutely do that, But in the thing that I suggest is using your breath as a form of energy. So you might find it in that way easier to tune in with it. So if you see that, it's if you like, the wind beneath my wings. So breathing in, I do, and when I breathe out, I relax. The other thing that I use quite a lot is that I count my breath. So when I breathe in 2 counts. So, and when I breathe out from my mouth 4 counts. And if I'm outside, I'll come back to it. So I'll go. And if I'm outside, obviously, I don't want to be walking around like a weirdo, going like, even though I can be quite a bit of a weirdo. So a more discreet way of doing it, is like, and even more discreet. I mean, I still need to demonstrate. And if you can, some people might prefer actually 2 counts in, breathing in, 6 or even 8 counts breathing out. See what works for you and what is the starting point. So yeah, That is a way you can approach exercising if you are at the place that you're just starting or you tried and there is a lot of flare up going on, therefore a lot of agitation in your body. Separate the things. So do a little bit to get your heart rate and your breathing rate going up. Do something separate to get a little bit of strengthening in it. Might be even things like sitting up and down from your chair to strengthen your legs, and then do something to stretch yourself out and relax. And as time progresses and you start feeling more confident and able in the separate things, you can start bringing them together until you can do I don't know, frog lips, knee highs, whatever it is that you want to achieve. And using your breath can be a powerful tool. You can use the technique of seeing your breath as energy. So when the breath comes, you move with it. When the almost like a bird. And when you breathe out, you kind of relax. For some of you, the opposite might come more naturally, and you might prefer to do it that way. By all means, do. Or just counting your breaths, breathing in and then breathing out for 4, 6, or 8 counts. There might be more videos coming up next week or about different types of easy exercises that somebody can do at home as part of the active day living rather than exercise program. I think there are plenty of perfect exercise programs. You can find the one you love. Just put the key words on YouTube even, or on any really platform that appeal to you, like I don't know, beginners yoga, foot pain, and I'm sorry, and I guarantee there will be something there that you will like. So just go with the thing that you love. The best thing that we can ever do is the thing that we actually do. Who was saying it, that done is better than perfect? Yeah, that's the thing. Done is better than perfect. Take care and look after yourselves.